Tower of Babel, Tower of Babylon. The Babylon's towers, so many different worlds, but Tower of Babel is a pretty good combination of words to best describe this biblical name, biblical story. We've seen a depiction or two about it, Book of Genesis, referencing this tall, large, circular tower made by humans, then criticized by God. And it's a story that's found, I believe, in chapter 11 of Book of Genesis. I'm not that religious, but it features this huge tower that's depicted, partially destroyed. And apparently the God said to these humans, hey, listen, as in the singular God, hey, listen, we don't understand each other with this language that we're speaking, because there was only one language at that time. So he caused all these humans, scared them away to run away and abandon the project, like this construction project, this magnificent structure. That's obviously not what happened in any way. The entire war was missed out of the Bible. So of course this heavily revised and dumbed down mockery of an actual incredible event that happened is another series of reasons why we're never going to hear the story, because of mistranslation in the text, revised books in the Bible, edited books, fake stories, fake names, and so forth. But wrongly depicted, I think, is one reason we'll never know what these towers look like, what really happened, the whole God thing. No, there was no God, there was gods, as an S at the end. Marduk was another god associated at that time, and king of Mesopotamian pantheon at that time, holding this godlike status, solidified in that millennial, and they called him the Bel, or meaning Lord, the Lord of Lords, God of gods, and all these different names. But Marduk was apparently the chief of all gods, the chief of gods of Babylon and Babylonian. So many made-up statements and mistranslations, as usual in the Bible. But of course, he was not an organic human. Of course, his name is misspelled. Of course, this entity didn't come from Earth, wasn't born on Earth. Of course, he came from somewhere else. The names are not accurate. Many of these names is just a mistranslation. And a lot of the names are repeated humans, just different name. And many beings at that time weren't really human there. They were humanoid beings, but not human. They were hybrid reptilians, hence we see snakes in depictions, but they were not lizards or cobras and anacondas and so forth. Humans were slaves at that time. There was a lot of slavery back in those times. And there was a large tower that was built, absolutely. Was it true? Yes, but not one. There's 3 to 5 that were built identical, from my best understanding through channeling. Not one, but 3 to 5. There were similar towers, advanced towers, not like Atlantis or Lemuria, but definitely very advanced, with incredible technology, with incredible precision. And we can see some of these structures in India, in ancient India, so like the real creation of Indian structures and temples, where they carved out entire projects out of one single stone, without any glue, cement, concrete adhesives, silicone, nothing, none of that stuff. Kalisha temple is one of them. The Brihadeshwara temple is another. Barabar caves are another. Fascinating places in India. Or Egyptians, the Giza pyramids, never built by Egyptians. They were found by Egyptians, but never built by Egyptians. The Thoth and Ra and Elohim were responsible for building the Giza pyramids. But anyway, as far as the towers are concerned, so these Babylonian towers, they weren't just normal standard towers we see today. This is not a tower that we see hanging in Toronto or Dubai. In any way, the thing also too I found out is the base itself was way bigger than the actual width of the tower. There were pathways, there were tunnels, entire structures below. Similar as we see in depictions of, let's say, trees and roots of the tree, where the roots are massive, deeper, wider, but the tree is not that big. So these towers had the same type of concept, that these towers were what we would say the term skyscrapers. Sure, we see them in Toronto here, the CN Tower in Toronto, I've been to it a bunch of times. I mean, I live in the city, which features a rotating restaurant on the top. It's about 1,800 feet tall. In New York City, after the World Trade Centers were demolished using technology, not by the black hologram planes, we see it in Manhattan right now, in the lower Manhattan, the new World Trade Center created. Again, 1,700, 1,800 feet or so, approximately, and I've been to it once. And then in Dubai, I've been 3 times in my life, and each time I went to the Burj Al Khalifa. I think the most incredible, advanced, fascinating tower surrounded by glass. It has the largest mall of Dubai. It has a mosque on the top, a nightclub on the top, largest aquarium in the middle, and even that is 2,800 feet tall. The Babel, the tower, height from 3 to 5 of these towers, based on what I was informed by very strong races, was 10 to 15 kilometers tall. From my understanding, the 3 surrounding the main ones were approximately 8 to 10 kilometers tall. This is how advanced, this is how strong, this is how complex these towers were. And we have no point of reference on Earth except Burj Al Khalifa in Dubai. We have bridges that are long. San Francisco Golden Bridge is about 2.5 kilometers long. I've been there. Longest bridge in Florida. I have a house in Fort Lauderdale. Longest bridge is a 7-mile bridge. It's like 10K, 11 kilometers. So imagine seeing a tower that is as long as one of these 10-kilometer bridges. 10 of the Burj Al Khalifas. I mean, it's fascinating. It's incredible. But we can't fathom that. We can't understand it. And in those ancient times, humans had technology that we don't have here today known to humans. Governments have them, but we don't have them. Atlantis had them, but we don't have them right now. And these Babel towers, they didn't exist to house humans. They didn't exist as a residential complex. I saw a lot of videos on the internet that says they're residential. No, they didn't need to build a tower that's 15 kilometers tall. That's not what it's for. It's not a private apartment. These towers were made to be used by extraterrestrials, for hybrid groups, hybrid humans, and certain humans in higher areas of their society that were allowed to enter. Visiting races, visiting ships, teleportation, hybridization programs, cloning, going off Earth, so off of Earth with ships, with drone technology, reproduction. These were charging stations. These were manufacturing facilities. Energy was harvested there. Teleportation was used regularly, and portals were used regularly. So this is why they needed a lot of space. And ultimately, eventually, fast forwarding, a war happened. Significant war. Very, very large, complex war that we today would say this was a nuclear bomb. This was a weapons of mass destruction. It lasted a few days, not that long, but certainly a lot of humans died. A lot of humans died, and extraterrestrials were fighting wars against one another. And this wasn't a war like Orient Wars, the largest war in the universe. It wasn't like that. This wasn't a war where they used laser type of advanced guns and scalar weapons and beams and magnetism guns and death ray guns, electromagnetic pulse weapons and guns and firearms and lasers and weapons to suspend all electronics and AI on some planet, plasma technology. It wasn't like that. It wasn't a projectile they sent to when Pleiadians Tikrit race, 6th density race, sent to kill all the dinosaurs in the Yucatan region in Mexico. It wasn't like that. It was certainly just wars, ET groups against other ET groups. In that war, a lot of humans died. Absolutely, plenty of humans died. And this war at this tower, in the vicinity of these towers, local population were the one that got really the shortest end of the stick. They weren't viewers. I mean, they didn't stand there with popcorn and watch the battle. They just got caught in the crossfire, and a lot of them died. And no one's going to tell us exactly how many people died, why did they die, but based on my information, and an extraterrestrial reptilian told me, approximately 10 to 30 million, so several tens of millions of innocent humans has died. The local population has died, and this was due to projectiles, and eventually when these towers started to fall down. And one of the towers exploded from within. So it was a pure destruction. It was using technology, very similar to what we see when World Trade Centers fell down. Using technology. Nothing to do with what CNN told us. But of course, this area with the towers, this was in Iraq. Iraq at that time was not called Iraq. It was 7th centuries when Iraq name came around, but this was called Mesopotamia. And my grandfather worked for Saddam Hussein in the 80s for 6 years. And I remember him telling me stories about ancient history that we were never told or learned in Europe in any way. We were told watered down story. But Mesopotamia was extraordinarily powerful, extremely powerful technology, but also with presence of extraterrestrials. Their consciousness was way different. I mean, Sumerians in general, Babylonians, Assyrians, all of these people, this is why they call them the cradle of civilization. The Tower of Babel wasn't just one, it was multiple, and all these towers featured a lot of this technology that we don't have a name for today in any way. And the biblical story where we see where God, the singular God, the man named God, G-O-D, is a Disney story. that he was disagreeing with the local population in Babylon and they spoke only one language. This is nonsense. The singular term God is nonsense. It's incorrect and it's an improper term. That's why it's constantly used in our society today. And it's not anything in any way how the ancient time, in ancient times, anything was referred to when it comes to galaxies, celestial, cosmic, all of these powers, gods, Draconians to Elohim to Anunnaki to Nagai. No one ever referred to these beings in these groups as God. No, gods, the term was used. S was just removed in our own human history for a reason. And this is why daily the religions blind us, brainwash us, condition us, and dumb us down to tell us that we're just 5,000, 6,000 years of age. And no, we're not. There have been multiple civilizations on earth with 3 floods, etc., etc. So yes, the Bible lies.